tweet out too. By the way, when you stream, do you do to YouTube or Twitch or both? I see you on Twitch, I think.
So that's still kind of like a work in progress for figuring that out. Like I defaulted to Twitch for coming back to it, and I don't know if I'm going to keep doing that. I do want to eventually do like a little interview style thing, and I was thinking originally to do that on YouTube, because I felt it fit there a little bit more, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I'm now doing both, and it's weird because I feel like I have less people on Twitch than I used to have when it was just Twitch and YouTube, and I don't know. I mean, I guess some people that like know me would be choosing one or the other and not both. But I was kind of surprised. But
yeah,
anyway. Dave Davies in the chat on YouTube. What's up? What's up? I'm super excited about today. We've kind of talked about this already, but or maybe I'll save it. I'll wait another minute before I mention like your video and what you did and what we'll do. I'm gonna get this link out on Twitter real quick, so hopefully people can find us.
Cool. So you are streaming to both YouTube and Twitch, you said?
Okay,
yep. Cool.
And just send out the tweet, and then I will go ahead and have my screen ready. This one, yes. Dave Davies excited for this. Oh, I don't need to show this yet. Yes, me too. Will Johnson, what's up? Will's like so good at following from stream to stream, and haven't had to do this in a while, but Will was always like the best link grabber ever. Anytime someone mentioned a link, Will was like on it immediately, which is super helpful.
Dude, Will's amazing, the homie.
Is your next? I know I've asked before, but is your next in-person conference? Is that Render, or do you have something before that? Okay.
And then I don't have anything currently booked I don't currently have anything booked after. I'm waiting until things die down before I start to think about it again.
Things like slowing down from conferences?
Yeah, because I overdid it a bit last year, and trying to
it's easy to overdo it, I think.
Man.
I may be at Render. So Jess is due May 22nd. Render is like May 29th or 30th is the first day. And so it just depends on timing. And the good thing is Atlanta is relatively close. So like I could drive there in 5 or 6 hours. I could fly there in an hour. So anyway, we'll just...
The priorities.
Yes.
Obviously, Render is the higher priority.
No, yeah, that's what I told Jess. And she respectfully disagreed. She actually is the opposite of what I'm joking she is. She has wants to tell me to go like regardless of when timing and stuff is. She's very independent she's very independent. So we'll see, but hopefully I'll make it there at least for a day or two.
Is she always back here giving commentary? I like the idea of this constant commentary.
I know. Colby says he likes your commentary, Jess. It just so happens we're in this like transition period in our house where we're both in our living room together, which is where our desks are set up for now.
You need to do it
convenient for the commentary.
You need to do it night show style where you have like you're sitting at a desk, she's off on the couch,
Yeah. She would hate to be on camera, but making snarky comments from the side is definitely her thing, I think. So
there we go.
Well, you should join the chat and you should talk to people there. Oh, she's joining a meeting. Anyway, let me get open. Actually, she said she's going to go. So my inspiration for today started from this video that Colby put out on a meme generator with Next.js. I can go ahead and share this screen as well. Fulani in the chat, Colby is using the Next Cloudinary package on our project. That's
awesome
amazing.
To hear.
Yeah,
awesome. I hope you're having a good experience with it.
Yeah, if you have feedback or thoughts or anything, please share that in the chat. And Marek is joining from London.
Nice.
Love this shirt in that video. Oh, is this your Kansas City shirt? The tie-in for
Will.
See if I can get a where's the intro?
You're always keeping an eye out for that.
I know. Yeah. So I saw this video from you. You had mentioned to me like the new Next.js Cloudinary package that you created, and I want to come back to you and give you a chance to introduce yourself and just talk about that in a second. But that was the inspiration for this. What we're going to try to do is build a meme generator very similar to what you did, but I'm going to take it off of like my branded thing, which was, let's see, I don't have it up. Let me open the search again. So the JQQ memes, where I take like random freeze frames from my videos as I edit them and then post them with the hashtag JQQ memes and let people make comments and stuff. So I wanted to turn that into a thing. So that's kind of the goal. We're gonna play around. We're gonna have fun. I'm super excited about it personally.
Yeah.
And anyway, Colby, welcome. We've like done this several times, but do you want to introduce yourself really quickly and then give context for the Next.js Cloudinary package?
Sure, sure. So yeah, I'm Colby Fayock. Thanks again for having me. I always love, it's a pleasure coming on here. But so I work on the developer experience team over at Cloudinary. So I do things like code related tasks, like creating libraries like Next Cloudinary, but also create content, demos, examples, whatever I can do to help developers become more productive with tooling. But, usually the focus on my role is Cloudinary.
Love it. And I feel like you've done so many of these types of tools. Like you're one of a handful of people that actually does it. Like I think we all think about doing stuff like this. We just never tend to get it done. So Brad Garapi is another person that I know
Mm,
does like anytime he's like, oh, this would be useful for other people, he
yeah.
creates a package with it. So I think that's super cool. And do you want to like talk a little bit specifically about some of the features maybe that are kind of built in here? And then we'll just get in like hands-on pretty quickly, but just like any
Yeah.
additional context you want to add?
Sure. So the background behind the library is I love Next.js. So it's a lot of fun to build with. And they had they used to have well, I guess they kind of still do, but they had support for Cloudinary where you would set up what's called a loader, or you can just allow the URLs to be loaded. But what that is basically doing is it's creating a function where you can dynamically create a URL, and that's what Next.js uses in the image tag. Now, that felt complicated for everybody to write themselves. So I created this wrapper, which is literally just a component around next image that does all that work for you, but takes it beyond that. So it's transformations you typically expect from Cloudinary, like background removal, dynamic cropping using AI based cropping, colors and effects, a ton of different stuff to make it easier to work with your images. But I then took it beyond just the image component, and I did things like added the drop in upload widget where you can use the upload widget component and easily have it available. There's also now a video player component that you can easily drop in, like a nice themable and customizable video player. And I want to keep expanding on that just to make it easy to use all these different tools in the Next.js context.
So good. Absolutely. Um, you want to go ahead and get started and we can just kind of see what this stuff looks
Yeah, let's
like?
go for it.
Davis Townsend is joining on Twitch asking what we're doing. So we're working with the Next Cloudinary package and we're going to build a meme generator in Next.js. Also, this may sound ridiculous. I haven't spent time with Next.js now in like months. So don't laugh at me if I'm
Okay,
like
okay.
stumbling around with working in Next.js.
What all have you been digging into lately?
Um, I've been doing a lot with Astro. So that's
Okay,
the
okay.
course that I'm starting to work on that
Super hyped.
yeah, thank you. You got to see some of the behind the scenes stuff and leave some very valuable notes the other day. SvelteKit, I've done a lot with.
Mm,
I guess those are kind of the two big ones. And then like backend, traditional node backend stuff with the Discord bot for Learn Build Teach. So
nice.
yeah, I
Okay.
just haven't worked with Next.js in a
Yeah.
while, which feels silly. Cool. So let's see. Should we do TypeScript to start?
Sure.
I
Yeah.
say yes.
The nice thing is, so I originally started while you're installing it, I originally
Yeah.
started the project without TypeScript just because I didn't know
Mm.
TypeScript. But people kept asking for it. Somebody started the TypeScript transition and did some of the work for me. But then I got to a point where I'm very perfectionist. And I'm like, okay, so this isn't right. This isn't right. So I just gave up and I went all in on TypeScript for the project. So now it should be fully typed, and I hope it gives that typical TypeScript experience.
Yeah. I talk about it a lot now. Like I can't do anything without TypeScript, or I can. Like I just prefer it. It definitely takes like more upfront, like
Yeah.
learning curve type thing. Like it's definitely. I think some people say like, oh, you should hands down use TypeScript, and it's just the easiest thing and best thing in the world. That's not quite true. Like it definitely has an
Yeah.
onboarding thing, but once you get there and are set up, used to it and have the types and everything, like it's really amazing, I think.
Yeah. I think where I'm at is I think I'll build any new tools with TypeScript, but I still don't think I will default to it for my application development. Because I think one of the things that's hit me the most is I can't quite code the same way because there's a lot of like little things that I can't do, like object keys that for each I now have to express in an interesting way. Things like that I just my productivity went down a little bit with it.
Mhm. Yep, I get that. It looks like I have another code window somewhere. Maybe not. I don't see it. It says I've already got something running at port 3000, and now I don't believe it, but we'll just run at 3001 and try to open this up. And it should be good. Cool. Now,
There.
are you caught up to speed on like the source directory versus or the app directory versus what's the other option?
The pages directory. So
Pages.
now
So this is using
yeah.
yeah.
So I know the high level, I still haven't used the app directory, but the component should work properly inside of the
Okay.
app directory.
Cool. We'll do that. Because maybe I shouldn't have signed up for this. I think you could also just um
That's my
add the other
understanding.
directory and go back
Yeah.
to it. But we'll try this out because I've been wanting to. Yeah. So also great question. Aditi is asking what browser is this? This is the Arc browser, and I sound like I'm a cool kid, which I'm really not. So I have heard people talk about this for a long time. I've heard people say how amazing it is. I had not used it until literally like 30 minutes ago. So if people use Arc browser and you have tips and tricks, please leave them in the comments. I would love to learn more about like how to make the best out of Arc browser because I literally 30 minutes ago started using it. So we'll see how it goes. All right, so here's our create next app. Let's just see what we have in here. I'll eventually probably like almost definitely change this to Tailwind. I don't what's your like go-to CSS?
I'm still on the SAS train.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Totally fair.
I support whatever people feel the most productive in.
I love that. I think that is the definitely the right way to go when telling people what your opinion is to also say like your opinion, whatever it is out there is also amazing. I'm just gonna do like this probably won't be styled at all, and I'll come back to this, but I'll do an H1 in here. And then I guess we'll need an image tag. And so a couple of things that we'll need to do, I guess, is open up Cloudinary, add a couple of images inside of there. So we're going to use like these freeze frame images of me as a base in Cloudinary. Then we'll overlay the text on top of that. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So do I have a Cloudinary tab? I thought I did. I also feel like it's not showing me, like when I tab through here, it's not showing me all of my open tabs. Interesting. Anyway, so I use Cloudinary for a lot of things, as people can probably tell. Like we use it. We talked about this on Cloudinary podcast. We used it for the Compressed FM podcast. So this is where we like auto generate cover images. So we upload the headshots of people, combine that on a background, add the time and the title and that sort of stuff. And looks like I don't have a JQQ memes project or a folder. So I'm going to create JQQ memes, go into that directory. I've got a few of these saved. Actually, I'm going to rename them before I upload them just because I don't want to have to type this long thing. You'll see my amazing naming convention here in a second. I'm just going to take
The
these
anticipation.
and I know you'll be mind blown when they pop up. Did that not get them?
Yeah, it must have lost it. What's going on there?
I don't know.
It's weird because it's recognizing it, but then it's just not taking it.
There's a chance that this is on my end and those images weren't all the way downloaded from Apple Cloud. Although it looks like that's not true.
Where my mind went to, was it an Arc thing, maybe?
I was wondering that too. Yeah. Well, can I do one at a time?
Maybe just, yeah, I was going to say.
Go to upload here. And then this is on my desktop screenshots. Caption this.
There's that naming convention that I was looking forward to.
Which like they renamed it for me anyway. But
Yeah.
But yeah, so just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Marek is asking, do you need an invitation to use ARC? And it's ARC, not that that matters a whole lot. Yes, I think you do. You definitely did for a while. I may have one, Marek. If you want to send me a message, I can probably get you one. Just remind me, and I'll try to dig that out if that's true. And Christian, willkommen. Christian's in Germany. I feel like I should like learn hi and welcome in every language that people join my stream from. That would be fun.
That'd be amazing.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we have a few images in here. Is there anything that we should do with the images like inside of Cloudinary at this point?
I don't think so. The only thing that I sometimes do is like rename it, but that's not really necessary.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I remove the public ID, but it's not worth bothering.
Yeah. Okay. So we can leave that for now. And cool. So we have images set up in Cloudinary. Now is the next step just to come back to Next.js and install the Next Cloudinary package?
Yep. So easy installation, yarn add Next Cloudinary.
Sweet.
Or NPM, whatever package manager you prefer.
So here's a question for you and the chat while this is installing. I've never used Yarn. I don't really know why people do. Not to say that you shouldn't. I'm like very naive. So do you use Yarn? And if so, what made you use Yarn instead of NPM?
So at this point, it's totally just habit. I wish I had a better answer than that, but at one point in time, I believe like the biggest thing, it's been a while. I think the biggest things were like the performance was really was much better. And I know they had the workspaces feature well before. I think NPM has that now, maybe. But now there's PNPM in the list too, which I actually like their workspace feature better. So it's, I don't know. I'm not the best person to give you a good answer, but at this point, it's really just habit, and that's what my fingers default to.
That's perfect. Yeah, I think I don't actually know these things, but from what I've heard is at a point a few years ago, there was a big difference between the two in terms of performance and maybe features. And NPM has like improved performance or maybe has some of the features that Yarn had that people liked. And so maybe it's less of a big deal now. I've never had any issue with what I was doing, so I never needed to try anything else.
Yeah, that sounds pretty much what people are saying in the chat. And yeah, PNPM, like I hear amazing things about PNPM. It's another thing I can't tell you why because I don't know the answer, but everybody tells me I should use it.
Yeah, again, same thing for me. I never felt the need. Not to say that it's not good, but Marek is saying PNPM is quicker than NPM. Yeah.
The thing that I like is I've had much more success with PNPM for workspaces where I always run into trouble with Yarn. Like, I don't know why. It's probably a user error, but PNPM is just a lot more straightforward for me and works well.
And that's something I've never really worked with workspaces, which again is part of the reason why I haven't experienced like some of the issues that people go and try these new tools for. Totally. Ofex on Twitch is asking if I have any plans to make tutorials on the new JS framework quick. It's a perfect branding opportunity, but not right now is the short answer. It's in a backlog of a lot of things that I would like to create content on, but from a branding perspective, it totally makes sense.
Hey, Quick does. Why aren't you going to sponsor QuickTime with James Quick?
That's right. It's a cool name to be able to take in a lot of different ways if I was better at like branding and stuff. So I installed the package. I also added a .env.local, an environment variable file that will run locally in Next.js. It should automatically pick that up. And then copied in your example of Next public Cloudinary cloud name, set it to James Q Quick. This is coming from, see, I don't know why it only shows me like my last couple. Where do I actually see this? On my dashboard? Yeah, cloud name is James Q Quick. So I keep that name, as you could probably tell, on like all platforms and stuff. So this is my cloud name, just paste it in there, and all of the environment variable stuff should be done.
Yep, exactly.
And scrolling down, I'm not going to worry about getting fancy with components or anything. This is a home component. I'm going to import the CLD image component and then throw this thing inside of here.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So,
oh, thank you for pointing that out. I need to make a note to myself to update the example.
Yeah, see, this is the benefit of doing this stuff live.
Oh,
Freeze frame of James Q Quick. Not too specific. And then the last part is the public ID or Cloudinary URL. And so if I look at one of these images, let's go back to the media library. Inside of JQQ memes, which one of these is the Cloudinary ID? Is it this part?
yep, that's going to be the ID. Now, the only caveat here for the public ID, that full ID, is going to be that includes that folder name. So it's going to be JQQ memes / that name.
Like that.
Yep.
Cool. Is this big enough for you, Colby? Is size big enough for people that are watching? Let me know one way or another.
Okay for me, but
Cool.
chat shout if should be a little bit bigger.
Yeah. I've always I've never done this, but it'd be a great like Twitch command for people to like increment the size. Because I have commands. It's not running now. Although I could. Do y'all want to do, if you're on Twitch, hold on one second. Let me do something. Twitch npm run dev. So on Twitch, there should be a command or does this still work? I think I converted them to commands. Let me actually see. I don't know. There may be rats. Now I'm confusing myself. I used to have a command that's built into like the UI of Twitch to change the theme in VS Code. But since I downgraded and gave up my affiliate status so that I could stream to YouTube at the same time, I don't know if I have those commands. So I don't actually know if I ever updated that. Twitch.
And plus, were you on Heroku before, if that matters, or did you move?
And I am still on Heroku. Yeah.
But if you're paying for it, okay. If you're paying for it, then
I was paying from the beginning. Let's see. I don't know. Actually, can someone try just like the bang character and then random VS Code theme spelled here? Can someone try that on Twitch? I don't know if that's gonna work or not, to be honest.
Here, I can
But we can try it. Are you on Twitch, Colby?
Yeah. So cool. Bang random VS Code theme. Is that what it is?
And
did I do it right?
Try. I don't know if it needs to be like capitalized correctly, but VSC is capitalized and then the T. Oh, it did work.
I got the coin. Yay.
And you got hot dog theme, which is no good. So we have to code with this for like a short amount of time. So thank you for that. Anyway, that command is working. And there is there's a timeout on that. So, or a cooldown. So like you won't be able to do it for another 30 seconds, or you won't be able to do it for another, 5 minutes? And then other people can change the theme in 60 seconds. So feel free to use that if people want to.
Will's probably happy because that's a Chiefs theme too, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's a terrible looking theme for VS Code, but I guess the colors look better on a Chiefs jersey.
If you want to say they look better, I think green looks better.
Green. Who?
Eagles.
Oh, you're Eagles. Yeah, I was thinking Steelers at first, but you're Philly, not.
Okay, yeah. I've always been on the Eagles side of the state.
Yeah, I was gonna say those are probably like fighting words for you.
Sure are.
Davis, you're missing the S. So random VS Code theme. That's the one thing that I miss with the built-in chat commands is you could like click and choose it instead of having to type in the random thing yourself. But let's see. Let's go over to this. Let's go back to, this is painful. I know, somebody change it. That's what I keep telling people.
David, you can give it another shot.
Yeah, you can go and fix this. Level up syntax is much better. I like
better.
this. I also didn't say that this theme that I was using, and I'm going to override everybody, is this is my theme.
Oh, nice.
Amy did the colors and design for my site and then built a VS Code theme around that. So this is the James Q Quick theme. You can go and tell your friends and install. Yeah, thanks. I think it's cool. Okay. let's see. Do I have anything in here? That's for CSS stuff, I think. Did I actually save this file? I believe so.
So we'll have to update the width and height at some point, but that shouldn't affect the image going on there. I wonder if maybe the image is like 0 pixels if it needs to be stretched or something. I know they have a little bit of weird default styles in there, so maybe it has something to do with that. Maybe if we want to look in the DOM.
Yeah. Also, so question in the chat that is a joke, but also is a slightly sensitive subject for me. It's not popping up here at all. So the question is, where's the new browser from the paid commercial? So you're talking about Polypane browser, which is a really amazing browser, has lots of amazing features for web developers, for accessibility, for lots of different things. It is not a replacement for typical browsing. I'm also like trying out a new browser in Arc, so I'm specifically trying that right now. But the most important thing I want to say is that was not a paid commercial, and I get lots of comments anytime I post about something that a is a paid product. Everyone's always like, I don't know, giving me shit about it, which is honestly really annoying. This is something that I enjoyed that I thought other people would enjoy as well. This is not a paid
Yeah.
commercial at all. It's a tool that I think is valuable for the web development community, and I shared it. And the comments are literally straight down the middle of, "Oh, this is so great. I love this." And the people, I would never pay for anything, and comments like, "This is a paid commercial," etc. So I don't know that like I doubt you mean anything by that, but it is like
Right.
annoying to me how many people are always commenting on assuming, and I do plenty of sponsored content, but assuming that anything that I show as a product is a paid commercial, which is not. But
Yeah. And their gripe was that Polypane is a paid tool.
it's a mix. Like, yes, developers are cheap. I'm cheap as well. So like if people's comments are like, I don't see the value enough to pay for it, great. Like and also like what other features do you think would be? But then there's also people just really assuming, even though I clarified in the video that I was paid to do a commercial for a product. And the reality is I just found it and I thought it was a valuable thing to share with the community, and it gets interpreted differently, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not seeing image tag at all in the DOM.
Weird.
Right.
Just for fun. Okay, did you refresh? So what is
That's
going
weird.
on there? Is there an error in the terminal, maybe?
Whoa. Not found error boundary?
Try to add the use client. Do you know what I'm talking about? The use client at the very top?
I don't actually.
So at the very top.
Oh, is it because we're in?
It might be.
Okay.
Again, I haven't spent too much time, but I just remembered that. So at the very top, like above the image import, like above all the imports, in parentheses or not parentheses, quotes, add use client, with a space between client.
Okay.
And that's saying that the component that you're working in is a client component. And there we go.
Okay. So
yeah.
this is a good thing to think about, because by default, bye Jess. Love you. By default, I think all the components inside of the app directory are server components. Again, this is like people that have experience in Next.js, like add all the insights and stuff that you have, because I am not well versed at this, but I think they all by default are run on the server. So this would give them some sort of issue to not know that it should be run on the browser, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't quite know what the answer is for that yet. I was hoping to automatically include that. But the reason that we need it right now is I'm using use state inside of the component for error handling, so that particularly with background removal, it happens by like there's a processing error that returns until it's done. So it pulls in the client and sets the state when it's ready. And give me 1 second. I'm just gonna let the dog out of the because it's she's whining.
Yeah, fair enough. Yep. Marcus is saying, and server components must be stateless. Stateless meaning, I I was going to say stateless meaning no state, which like, yeah, that makes sense. But stateless specifically in this case, specific to React is like no U state. So nothing like that. So I guess his component would actually use something with state and that would throw that error. And this is in, I don't remember what was the directory before app. Is it the directory, the default directory in Next.js before app directory was just pages? Is that right?
Yeah. So, but they originally didn't include the source directory, which I always added because I prefer it just for a cleaner top level. But
Uh huh. I wonder. I was looking at the comment from Toxic VS Code thing. That looks like it's spelled correctly. Did that not come through? I didn't see. I didn't see a change.
was there a
Unfortunately,
cooldown issue?
maybe. Oh, Toxic. Yes. So if you and I may not have the bot may not give you feedback for this. So there's a 5 cooldown per person. So if you do it, you can't do it again for 5 minutes. But globally, someone else can do it.
And it
Yeah.
looks
So
like
now we're on Code Stacker theme. So that's
so they
working.
did it. Probably just need to wait like 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Toxic.
Yep. Cool. So this probably wasn't the best demo to experiment with the app directory because then we're adding other things that we weren't prepared for. But now it's like it's good insight. So
yeah, and now we're here, so I don't think we have to worry about it anymore. So the one thing I'd recommend is the aspect ratio at this point.
And is that literally just aspect ratio or like?
I'm sorry, like specifying the width and height that you want to use. So usually, like I just grab that from Cloudinary,
from the actual image.
Yeah.
Is there? Will it work if I just give it a width of 600?
So no, but
Okay.
the reasoning, and this is actually a next image requirement, unless you use a different layout, it needs that in order to add that height to the actual image tag itself for the layout shift to avoid that.
Yeah.
So like I don't actually by default pass the height in to the URL because you don't need it. It just scales automatically.
Okay. But for
Unless you're
Next.js,
specifying,
it needs it, or for the
yeah,
Next.js image.
yeah. Unless you're specifying a different crop mode, which if you're familiar, you can crop it however you want.
Yep. What's the math on 1920 divided by 3 or 2 at least? So let's go 960. Anybody know 1080 divided by 2? 540? Let's see if we can get that back down to something reasonable. So the thing that I would want to make sure that I do with these images, because I don't think they're all the same dimensions now, is I would want to make sure to have all those images like be the same dimensions. Oh, you're muted.
So that's where cropping comes in. So as you know, you can dynamically crop and resize with Cloudinary. So that's built right in easy ways. So let's actually fix that then.
Okay.
So if you go back into the component, let's set a crop mode of fill. And then at that point, you can really set the width and height to whatever you want. And if you're familiar with the background, I think is it background size cover, it'll work the same way. Where within those the width and height that you specify, it'll just make sure that everything is covered.
Okay. Perfect. Falani is commenting, I would put the CLD image component in a separate client component instead of converting the whole page into a client component.
Yeah, that makes sense.
How do you just add that same annotation to a component?
Yeah, and for just this example, but it probably doesn't matter too much since we're just working through it. But for actual practice, that probably makes sense.
You could go ahead and like if I inside of source, let's go ahead and create components directory, and then what would be a good name for this?
I mean, honestly, you can just call it the same thing and just import it with a different name so that you can just re-export it.
What do you mean?
So call it CLD image, the same. And then to avoid the conflict within the file, you can just export it under a different name.
Oh yeah. I was thinking about, is this going too specific to me? Like JQQ image?
I mean, yeah, I mean that totally works.
I guess like it is that, I think. So
and Davis, yeah, it's I believe it's kind of like object fit cover.
So this will go here. This will be image. Don't need this. Don't need this. This. Use client, yes, and then JQQ image, and then get rid of use client here. Is that how that works? So it'll this is different, so I don't need those styles. Oh, and sorry, this is what I get for copying stuff over. That doesn't need to go there. That doesn't need to go there. So cool. There we go.
And then the only thing I might recommend is, depending on where you want to work, if you want to pass the props through. So if you want to work off the JQQ image versus the CLD image, depending on what you want to do.
JQQ, sorry, what do you mean?
So if you want to add the props on this component, or if you want to add it inside of the component file itself, just depending on where you want to work on it.
So I was thinking about this. So one of the things we'll do is we'll have like basically a button that can size images. So here's the images that you can add text to. Then I want to have a button that'll it just swaps out the source. Is that something, should we pass that in as a property here? That probably makes sense, right? The source.
Yeah. And honestly, what you can do,
ID. Yeah,
you can copy all those, if you want, you can copy all those props to the JQQ instance and then just spread out the props and pass them right through, because that's all you really need to do.
Oh, if you're passing in all of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep. So if we have, wait, I actually don't know the syntax of this. So if we,
so you do a curly brace, like inside of the CLD image instance, you now do a curly brace, and then you do ... props.
you
And
actually
now,
can do that.
yeah, and now if you take the existing props off of the component and move them back up to the other one, it'll just pass it all right through.
Gotcha. Okay. So there's that. It'll spread them out. I don't know if I've ever actually used the spread there. And then we should define interface, JQQ image props. And
Getting that TypeScript going.
Yeah.
Now, the nice thing is I actually export the types. So if you want to just import that, I just need to find out what that is.
Oh, cool. Yeah, if you have that, then we could throw that.
Just let me find it.
Then what's define the prop here? So we say props is an instance of Cloudinary props. I guess this will probably tell us, actually. Yeah, CLD image props.
Oh, yeah. So just try to, inside of the import statement, see if you can just, or is that how it works? Do you not even, it auto imported it?
Yeah, I hovered up here and then I typed it in and then
Gotcha.
I got it for me. Cool. So then this should, like, if I get rid of width, I think it will.
It's gonna yell.
Thought it would, maybe not. That one definitely. Are width and height both required in?
Yeah, width, height, source, and alt.
Yeah, it didn't. So if I get rid of alt and or source, it does it.
But
width and height.
Oh.
If I get rid of.
Oh, you know what? I wonder if the height isn't because there's the one layout mode in Next Image doesn't require a height, I believe, because it uses a box and it just adds it differently. So I wonder if that's why.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering because there is a certain mode with Next that you can having to pass width or height or both. I'm not sure. Yeah.
But
Salim, what's up? So one of the things I was thinking about doing, which we'd actually have an issue with. So again, we should have learned more about how the app directory works before doing this, but we'll need to have a state, which is basically an array of the different sources. and then set it to like one of those sources. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we may have to add, I guess we will have to add this, the use client up here. Again, like we could move this. I'm just going to do this for now. Like this is not the best way, whatever. But later on, we could figure out a way to organize this better. How do you spell? I guess I could do this. Image sources array. I guess I'll actually call this image IDs. There's that one. And we can have use state. And we'll say, want to start with this image. I guess we could actually just take it from the array of 0 and say, ID, set image ID.
That works.
Makes sense. And then we can add in this in here.
Man, that auto updated.
Did you see? Do you like that?
Yeah.
So anytime I'm inside of a double string or a single quote, and I add in the $ bracket, it automatically converts it to template literal string.
Is that an extension that you added, or?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you what it is. String.
That's interesting. I haven't seen that one.
Template string converter.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, it's pretty neat. Cool. Does that? Oh, I think I spelled. That should be like this. Let's just make sure that still works.
There we go.
Awesome. And let's grab a couple more of these. I'm going to use my multiple clipboard history, which everyone should invest in.
Huh.
Yeah. Do you have one of these?
I do not.
Colby, you gotta get it.
Game changer?
It's like, yes. So now that I've copied all those, I can come in and add them if I do my quotes and stuff right. And you're not quite getting the full context because it's showing the menu on the other screen.
Okay.
But what it does is I have a command that basically like lets me cycle back through things that I've copied, and then when I like release on that one, it'll paste it. It's like,
that's nice.
Yes, it's fantastic. It's really one of the coolest things ever. So one of the things we could do is, I guess we need to know which index we're on too, right? Because we have to know, like, if we want to cycle through forwards and backwards, we need to know the index. Image index. Image index. I guess then.
So this is for what?
Like if we have a next arrow and a previous arrow.
Well, you could probably do that with the existing ID, and you can just infer it, right? You could use.
Oh, and do.
You could probably do image index equals image IDs find index.
Yeah.
Pass that in.
Technically, like this is not important at all, but it would be less performant because when it does the find of that item to get the index, it would have to go through, like worst case of if you get into O of N or like big O
I don't
notation,
know any of that stuff.
It would have to. So an array has, when you do a find with an array, like if you want to find the index for something, at worst case, it's going to have to go all the way to the end of the array to find that thing. So in this case, there's 4 things, so it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
But if you have a million records and you go and iterate through each one, and worst case, you have to go all the way to the end, technically it would be like less performant. Again, it doesn't.
Interesting. That's good to know, though.
Yeah. But what I could do also, to your point, is use the image index and then just get the ID from the array using the image index. That works too. And then we can have a button, previous, next, and then click, have a function that increments. So set image index +1.
Yeah.
-1, because this is previous. We actually would want to have some logic in there to like wrapping around and stuff too, but for now we can start with this. If we do this right, toxic is out of the waiting period. Congratulations. In theory, if I press next, then I get a new image. It takes a second, but I get a new
Nice.
image, previous, next, etc. So
an interesting thing about why it took a second there, the way that the component works, I don't know actually why it's happening that way behind the scenes, but it'll show the previous image until the new image network request loads,
okay.
which is interesting, right? Because so what would the otherwise it would just disappear, right? So I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know if that's better, but it also makes it feel laggy. So I need to figure out a solution for that.
Oh, so this is something that actually is like, is that a choice that you made so far? Is to leave the existing image until the new one finishes?
Wasn't a choice. It just
It
happened to
just
like that.
okay.
And I don't actually know why yet. I haven't dug into that yet.
Okay.
I just found it interesting.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Um, but then after having them here,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
obviously it's faster. And then even if I refresh, these should be faster going forward too, because
Yeah.
this is creating a unique Cloudinary URL, which after every time Cloudinary gets a new URL input for an image with different properties, it caches that version of the image. So all these are going to be faster after the first time they're loaded anyway.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. Sweet. So again, UI is terrible, but I guess the next thing I think in yours um you did like a top and bottom text. So
Yeah.
we can start with something like that. So we don't need don't need an I guess we could have a name, top text. And we're gonna need a piece of state for this. So we'll say top text, set top text, and set this to an empty string. We'll do the same thing for bottom text. And value for this. I don't actually know. Do we just set the value? There's no like bind. I'm like
Yeah.
literally haven't spent time with React in forever. I feel like
Yeah, yeah. We can just pass that value right in.
top text like that. And is there anything else? Oh, we need to update the like on change.
Yeah. Now the only thing to consider is every time you do a keystroke, it'll update it,
Hmm.
but I probably out of scope for this to do some kind of like dethrottling or
Yeah.
another way people do this is have a separate apply button, but I like to see the changes live.
What did you do in your video? Did you add any
So in the
throttling?
video, I didn't do anything, but the
Okay.
solution afterwards, I added some dethrottling on it. I think
Okay.
I alluded to it in the video, but I just didn't show it.
Okay. So if we were to do a basic throttling and we said handle top text change, we could say um, load from top text like a boolean.
I've never done it manually like that before. I just used a package, so I'm curious to see what you do.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, basically just keeping a boolean for whether or not we're actually going to load this thing. So we haven't actually applied the URL yet, so we will in a second. But we would basically like inside of here, we want to decide whether or not to up update the overlay property in Cloudinary. So we would basically like um, if load from top text, update overlay property. And then if we do, we want to set timeout, or sorry. So we want to set load from top text after we update the top, like update with the new Cloudinary URL. We want to set load from top text false. And this probably is better reload Cloudinary image. That's probably a better URL, maybe something like that, or maybe just CLD image. Let's do that. So CLD image, set reload CLD image, and maybe like can set. Anyway, I'm getting picky about naming. Set reload. So we set that to false, and then we basically do a set timeout to, I don't know, a second, and then set reload CLD image to true. Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah.
And if we aren't able to reload, we just do nothing, and it's going to pick up. Now we do run the risk of, like, if the user finishes typing in the time where reload CLD image is still false, then it would never get reloaded. Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah.
So there's some race condition that I'm not quite addressing here, but something like that. Yeah. So anyway, so that's handle top text change. So this will be on handle top text change. And then we'll also have the same thing for.
And then do we need to actually set that change somewhere?
The
like where it actually
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll actually, what gets passed into here? Do we pass in the value?
That should be the event. So the event current target's value.
Okay, so just we call it event in here. And then we want to set top text to event dot current dot target. Is that what you said? Or
camel case current target.
Current target dot value, or just current target? No.
Yep, value. Yep.
So we'll update the text every time, but then we'll decide whether or not we actually use that to update the image.
Makes sense.
Cool. Event. Yeah, it'll just be any for now. This is what people do when they use TypeScript and don't want all TypeScript.
When you start building an application and you immediately regret adding TypeScript.
Oh yeah. Especially when you're like just you're just getting started too. So top text handle, bottom text change. That's because this needs to be the exact same thing. I could probably create like an abstracted thing for this, but create that. And then in this case, I'm just using, I'm going to use the same logic in each one. So just one Boolean for each one of them. And then they will basically play off of each other. So if you update the bottom one and then try to update the top, it'll still have the same debounce or whatever.
Okay.
Toxic, killing it with the VS Code themes. I love it. Very nice. I don't have mine actually listed in the options for this command for the like random VS Code themes. I need to add that. Okay, so that should, to the extent of, see this and this. So there's our top and bottom. We can still go to, oh, sorry, wrong way. I need to add that logic of not going below 0. I guess I could say image index greater than 0. Question mark image index. Does that work if I hack this together?
I think so.
And image index less than, the array name. Shoot. Image IDs dot length less than, yep. And we say image ID or image index +1 or image index. I could like disable those buttons too, would be a better way to do it. But now previous should not do anything. Next will go up until
Nice.
yeah, that one didn't work. So if image index is less than image IDs dot length, I think this should be -1.
Yeah, I was just
So next. All right, cool.
There we
So
go.
that's good. Great face too. That's the fun of my memes. So from here we have our different text, and now we need to update. We need to add our text overlay. So what does it look like to actually add the text overlay?
So usually I just go back to the docs and grab it because it's syntax
enough.
dependent. And I can't say that I write the text overlays enough that I know it by heart yet, but I should. But so what we're actually doing is we're defining the overlay prop. And technically, I do have a prop where you can just define text equals string, but it's very simple and it's just like a very like here's some text, just as an easy way to do it. But it's not very it's not customized. So we're better off just going with this where you can really define an array of as many overlays as you want. Where this one in particular is text-based, but we also have image-based overlays. But of course, we want our memes, so we're going to use text-based.
Sweet. So I can throw this in here. We'll probably kind of see what this looks like. And
Yeah,
then
if you hit save, we can just look what that as is.
Yeah, true.
Cool beans.
Love it. Nice. So, so probably don't want angle. There we go. That already refreshed. Cool. And then probably like smaller font size. So maybe 80 to start. And what we'll need to do is 2 of these, right? So overlays is an array, and we'll have 1 object for top, 1 object for bottom. I'll mute again. Colby,
my bad.
He's got the fancy streaming set up now.
It's
used to it.
Yeah. I would wait to. I was just gonna say I would wait to duplicate it until finish cleaning this one up. What I recommend doing is also, so if we want to go meme style, right, or do you want to go like purple and keep it retro?
No, totally meme style.
Meme style.
So would
Okay.
that be?
So there's a
like
couple things we need.
text?
So yeah, we need the white text. I don't know what font family we want to use. Probably don't need to worry about. But then, so I usually get rid of letter spacing because I just had that on there as an example. But it can allow you to give some breathing room between the characters.
You want to mute again?
Okay, now that time was accidental. I apologize. Okay, I'm not going to mute anymore. And then you probably get rid of the text decoration.
Yep.
Now we probably want to add a stroke around there. So you got to do 2 things. And this API follows the Cloudinary API. So I could probably make it a little bit simpler. But first, you want to define a stroke of true.
Okay. So just right in there like that.
And then also we're going to define a border property. And this is going to be kind of like CSS, where we're going to say like solid underscore 20 pix or whatever you want to do. And then underscore the color, which black.
Sorry. Okay. But you have to set this. If you don't set stroke to true, then it doesn't pick up the border.
Yeah, and that's how the API works with Cloudinary. I need to figure that out and maybe define stroke of true if you have a border or something like that. But okay, what's wrong?
Probably something I typed in wrong.
I wonder if when pasting it in, it wasn't quite.
Let's see. Did I do? Is it px like 20 pixels?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I added Poppins in there, which may not.
Oh, I wonder if that has anything to do with it.
Because I do remember, I think it didn't have access to like all Google fonts.
Yeah. So most Google fonts, but not all Google fonts. But
it looks that like one still didn't.
So here's a nice little trick. If you right click on the image in the console or click it, I guess. Basically, I want to go to see the network tab.
Just the URL was?
Yep. And if you click on one of those image requests, and if you scroll down to the bottom of response headers, or it's already there, invalid border in transformation. So the cool thing is we can actually see that CLD
Wait,
error at the bottom
what?
there. Isn't that cool?
Yo, no, I did. Yeah, yes, absolutely. I did not know that.
Yeah. So it looks like
Wow.
we're defining that property wrong. And let me see if I can find out what we're doing wrong.
Cloudinary time border transformation.
That should be right.
Border. I have an example of this.
So I'm looking up my code because I did the same thing. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, so I think the size goes before the solid. So 20
okay.
pixels solid black, which is interesting because I then have the. But how did it work before? Yeah, I'm
The best
confused. But
developer question ever created is how did this ever work?
yeah, but hey, there we go. So the only other thing.
Davis was helping out with that too, by the way. Thanks,
Oh,
Davis.
appreciate that. Thank
Yeah.
you. It's funny. I think I do for CSS. I think I do solid 20 pixels. I think that's why my mind is there. I guess I didn't know you could do 20 pixels. I don't know. My mind is now fried. Anyways. So I think the only other thing we want to do, unless you want to leave it there, is update the positioning. So,
Yeah.
so how we typically have the top and the bottom. So we can simplify this by getting rid of that X value to start, because we probably want to keep it in the center.
Okay.
And then depending on if it's top or bottom, we'll either use north or south, because right now southeast is the compass direction southeast, right? So you want it to just be easily focused where all you have to do is control the Y based off of the top or the bottom.
So when we define these gravities, is it taking, like, if my text is this big, is it taking the center point of that text and putting it in that geography, or what exact or does it take the top left coordinate and put it down there? Do you know?
I think it's going to be whatever. I think it's going to be relative to that position. So I think, so if you, I mean, we can try it. Like if you define 0, 0 and do south, I think it's going to hug the bottom. Whereas if you do north, it'll hug the top. So I think kind of what you were saying, depending on the gravity, it's going to be relative to that text area as well.
And it looks like it also, yeah, so I guess it uses the center point, because
Yeah.
if it used the top or bottom point, it would either push this off the image or above it.
Well, I think it's using the south. So when you define a south of gravity, it anchors it to the bottom of the image, but it also uses the bottom of the rendered text, I think, to.
I think
That makes sense.
wouldn't it be the
No?
center of the rendered text? Because if
I would have thought that would make it half off the page if that were the case.
it was, well, how does it work now? Because it's not.
So right now, if I'm right,
Mhm.
it's anchored to the top where the positioning of the image is at the top, the north, but also for the text. So the north of the text, the north of the rendered
Is
text is
0,
also,
0.
yeah,
So then when it's positioned south, the 0, 0 is the bottom part of the image as well. So it's like the
that's my
origin of
understanding.
the image moves with the location.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yep. Um,
And that's kind of how CSS is too, isn't it? If you do absolute positioning, right? I mean, you don't really think about it that way, right? But you're basically just moving if you think about it, if you have an absolutely positioned div and you're positioning it, anchoring it 0, 0, but then depending on where you're anchoring it, like top left versus bottom right, you're defining that X and Y and it pushes it off the sides, right?
I don't know.
Right?
Well, I've never thought about that, and like for some reason there's a disconnect in my brain between these two things, and I like can't wrap my head around it.
I feel you. I'm not 100%
Yeah.
confident in the words I'm using either, which is why I'm trying to give that impression.
Huh. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
But here we are. Cool
Yes.
beans.
Cool beans. Love it. So then I guess the first thing we could do is we need to have another piece of state. This feels like another or a lot of state, or yes, we need to have another state to be able to pass into the image. So we want, like, we have this text here. This should be replaced by a variable, but we want to have a separate variable from the input so that we can do this thing where we choose when to update that state so that it causes the re-render. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay. So I think this would be like top Cloudinary text. Again, not my best naming here. And then inside of this, we would set the top Cloudinary text to the top text.
Yeah.
And then we'd come down and use our fancy trick in here of boom, boom, top Cloudinary text, like that.
Yeah.
All right, who's nervous? Oh, we may have to.
Well,
Can it take an empty string?
I think so. I think it take. Yeah.
Cool Beans just reminded me of Creed from The Office. Does he say that in The Office? I haven't seen it in a while.
He must. I think it's from, what is that? There's a movie with Andy Samberg from a long time, Hot Rod. If you ever, he says,
I've seen like parts of it, but it's been a long time. Yeah, I could totally see that. Do you remember Beans from Shia LaBeouf? What's his TV show?
Oh yeah, Even Stevens.
Yeah,
Of course I remember Beans.
My nephew's like a couple, like in the last year, fell in love with that show, and so I'd watch it with them, and it's like the goofiest thing ever. But I used to watch it so much as a kid.
Man, I remember when Disney Plus first came out.
Yes,
that was on the top of my list.
Yes, every Friday there was like a new movie that they would release or whatever.
So good.
Mm-hmm. Davis is saying that he did say that on The Office. That's awesome.
Okay.
My nephews have also recently got me into Seinfeld. They love Seinfeld. Okay. They love The Office.
I never really got into Seinfeld.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Like it's kind of like my time killer thing. Like I'm working on something and I just kind of have it on. But I definitely enjoy it.
Nice.
So we should try our other trick, which I'm assuming we can't send like an empty string.
So I think I ran into this as well. I can't remember if I just defaulted back to like the word top text or not. Maybe just try entering the text and seeing if it works in the first place.
Oh, true. Yeah. Top text.
So I can see the flickering of it trying to load.
Yeah.
So what is not doing right?
Response headers.
So
what was the property that we were looking for?
CLD error. It's usually at the bottom of that response block.
Oh, XCLD error. Yeah. Must specify text.
So it's not getting it.
So somehow top Cloudinary text. Set top Cloudinary text to top text. Cloudinary text. Just want to see if that's getting like updated.
It's never even getting ran.
Interesting. If reload, that's because it starts off as false instead of true. Good.
Oh, there we go. So it's because there's a 1 second delay. So it's, I would lower that delay if I were you.
Yeah, I was thinking I was gonna have to.
Yeah.
Like 300 milliseconds, maybe. Start from scratch. So it's not, so maybe we should give it a default of top text.
Yeah.
Because I guess the other thing would be we could define, like we could do this. All right, what am I saying? Say overlays equals array if top Cloudinary text overlays dot push. This makes sense.
Yeah.
And then we could push in this object. It feels a little gross. Night owl is a great theme, by the way. And then where was I? And then we could set this to overlays.
Yeah.
So can overlays take an empty array?
I think so. I think I have it set so that it's checking the
Okay.
length, but I'm not 100% sure, but I think so.
Cool. So let's refresh this. Oh, did I set the top? I guess we could leave that anyway, but let's just try it to see if it works. Okay, so nothing. Top text. Boom.
Top text.
Oh, interesting. So it doesn't grab.
Oh, I was mostly just thinking it was funny because you're from Texas, right? Am I crazy?
No, I'm from Tennessee.
Okay. Well, I thought you used to be. I thought you like. I don't know. I thought that.
Yeah. By the way, commented, James, listen to your podcast. Thank you. Congrats, you'll be a dad. Thank you again. Bit late, but not watching live streams. Need something to the car. Something to the car.
Something to listen to while in the car.
Something to listen to in the car, probably. Yeah. Well, thank you for the support. I appreciate that. Jess and I are getting more and more excited for upcoming baby. Oh, I meant to check. Colby, are you good time wise? Because we're over the original like calendar invite hour.
Yeah, we can go a little bit more.
Okay. How much time do you have?
You want to call it top of the hour?
Top of the hour.
That sound good?
Yeah. Yep. Perfect.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. Weird that I'm. Oh, I think it's that same. I think it's the same bug of so I think it's that same bug of if I type, it's going to re-render and then it's going to wait 300 milliseconds and then I'm not typing anymore. Because I think if I continue to type, it'll get everything, all it'll take time.
And you also need to consider that it's processing that image too.
Yeah.
So you have that 300 seconds and the image processing.
Yeah. I think this would actually, like if I build a better UI, I think it'd be better to have a higher thing here and then have a loading state. And then the last thing I can do is say, like just show a loader on top of the image to show that it's like regenerating, but then also have one more detail here of saying, if I break, so once I hit this trigger, I ought to do the same thing again. That makes sense. So like that way it'll pick up anything I typed in the meantime if I'm not still typing. I think that will get it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Top text. Or will it?
This is why I used a package.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Just kidding. But yeah, package was nice and easy to use.
Interesting. Well, this will be a bug for me to figure out for myself. But in theory,
it's a fun one though. I've never tried to do that myself.
In theory, it should be relatively simple like this.
Yeah.
Anyway, the bottom text will be more or less the same thing. Is there anything else that comes to mind of like would be a good thing to call out for the extension or for the package?
So in terms of your application, so I guess we can walk through the features first. So there's a couple things. We have the image component. We have an open graph image that works off of the CLD image component. So it's basically the same API, but you can add it to your page and it'll create a social card, which is cool. But then we have the upload widget, which if you want to give people the ability to upload their own images or even take their own screen captures midstream or something and upload that, you have the ability to allow people to upload that and even set like moderation and stuff on it. So you can choose what people are uploading. Or if you want to let people do that and then upload their meme that they created, that could be fun too. But a lot of different options for being able to just generally work with that and provide that workflow for user generated content or working with images generally.
So So I'm thinking I want to incorporate this into AppWrite. So I've got some work to do with them. Demo
Okay.
wise, AppWrite is like an open source Firebase alternative, which I'm really excited about. And
Nice.
so I was thinking I was going to store, like, I can handle authentication with AppWrite, I believe. I can then us huh? What? I don't she just called me rude and I don't know why. Oh, Auth0. That's why. She's saying rude because she works at Auth0.
Oh,
And I said to use AppWrite for
see, we need
authentication.
more Jess commentary.
I do think you would make like a great addition if you were just nagging me the whole time in the background with amazing comments like that. That's fun.
Have you ever seen Space Ghost Coast to Coast?
No.
It's an old cartoon show where they would have real people on to interview, but the people interviewing and the side thing are just cartoons. This character
Oh,
called
cool.
Space Ghost, so
Okay.
you can have her come on with like an AI avatar or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, we'll get a whole thing. I feel like that would be like an amazing addition to live streams. I did also I did interviews with people at that conference, like standard questions like what is your favorite programming language, etc. So I
Nice.
took several different answers and put them into a video that I posted on TikTok, which has been one of my more successful ones recently. And I have like the standard text at the top. It's like wait till the end. And at the end, it's me asking Jess what her favorite programming language is. Not a programmer, and she says English, and then we both just like crack up in the video. I
That's
feel like it'd
amazing.
be really fun to have like these made up conversations with Jess of like,
Oh
explain
yeah,
to me about this. And she just makes up like whatever it sounds like it is.
that would be a ton of fun.
We're finding a time and place for all of your insightful comments, Jeff.
You got to book her for an hour.
Oh yeah. Occasionally if I'm having an issue with a program of some sort, I'll just like ask her like, hey, I'm having this issue. Just like sit down and listen. And she'll just say random stuff. I'm like, oh, that actually really helps. um okay, so question for you.
Yeah.
Would if I am now storing, so let's say you like log in, for example, and you create a version of this meme on the site, and I save that, I probably need to save that URL in AppWrite. Is the appropriate thing to do like have a user have a URLs or like an images table that's associated with a user, and inside that URL, I just store the full URL that this thing is basically generating for me?
So that's definitely a solution. So one example of what I've done before in the past that I can talk about is that CloudyCam app that I showed you before.
Hmm.
And I'm doing something similar where I don't know if you want to pull it up so people can know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But if you go to cloudycam.netlify.app slash all things open,
Shopify dot app.
app slash all things open.
That's not how you type. All things open.
Is that Raycast, by the way?
No, so this is actually inside of Arc. So this
Oh, okay.
is
Oh,
yeah.
that's
So
cool.
everything kind of, you don't have the traditional toolbar thing. Like you kind of have it over here a little bit, but
Interesting.
all the commands and stuff you run through there. So you can actually
Hmm.
trigger like other command. I don't even know like the commands that well, but if
Hmm.
there's any command new tab or split
Yeah, I got
screen,
you.
there you go, split view.
Oh, that's cool.
It's basically a command palette. So anytime you go to a new address, that you're going to it through the command palette.
Huh. Well, so this application, James actually took a picture with it. I've been taking this to conferences and events to allow people to take a picture. It uses Cloudinary tech, and it's just a fun demo of using Cloudinary in practice. But you can see all these people took pictures at the All Things Open event. But what the goal of showing this is what I'm doing is I'm taking a picture with Cloudinary. I'm then doing overlays, which it's basically the same thing as what we're doing here. Is we're yeah right in the middle there. Do you see yourself?
Yep.
And then so I'm adding the overlays, but then I have this finished piece that I want to be able to share. So the way that I'm doing it is I'm not even using a database in my instance because I'm just what I'm doing is I'm re-uploading that image as is, and then I'm adding
To Cloudinary.
tags to in Cloudinary so that I can associate it with that event and then pull it in. So you have a couple different
Mm.
options for how you store that. Now, obviously, I think the solution would be working in the database, but depending on what you can store in AppWrite, I don't know what the database solution is, but can you store an object? Because then maybe you want to store the full resource object. If you want to store the
Store the
public,
actual image.
like the response object, like the So if you request the resource from Cloudinary, or as soon as you upload it, it gives you an object that has all the information, like the width, the height, the format, like all those things. That way you have all
Okay.
that information readily available.
Okay.
Or you could just store like the public ID. But generally, if you have the width and height available to you, that makes it a lot easier to consume, because then you don't have to worry about trying to get that later.
Fair enough. And for these, I'll probably like have standard width and height. So in theory, what I'll do is take these freeze frames and like all have them be the same size. So
Okay.
even though we used the fill option earlier to like set them to the same size, this
Yeah.
way at least I can control. I know my base image is always 1920 by 1080, and then
Yeah.
I layer anything on top of it. The image is still 1920 by 1080.
Okay. Yeah,
So
that
that
makes sense.
I could do that way.
But
But
then, like, so it's either the image URL or the public ID. The public ID would probably be more handy if you're working with an SDK, where the URL is like
mhm,
generically being able to be used.
true, yeah.
Now, I don't know if you remember seeing in the beginning the CLD image component. You technically can pass in a URL into it, and I try to parse it. But the only caveat there is it needs to include the version number, because otherwise it's very, very difficult to parse a Cloudinary URL, just because of the different options that you have in there.
Okay.
But I think that if you're uploading it, the response should come with a version number, I think.
So would I, if I were, so would you recommend if people wanted to save their meme, for example, you would recommend instead of just saving that URL somewhere in the database, you would upload that image itself to Cloudinary and then save its associated ID in the database?
Yeah, that's what I would recommend, because then you don't have to worry about the complications of pulling in all those transformations and uh, it accidentally breaking for some reason. Then you have like it's safe. And something you can also do is like you can add context to the image with the original URL or something if you want to store the original version. That way, like
Mm,
you can show the differences or something like that. But yeah, that's my two
okay.
cents, because at that point you don't need to store it with the transformations as opposed to just the image itself. But
Yeah.
personal preference, I think it gets to that point.
Okay. And like, for example, with our our auto generated covers for compressed FM, we don't save like the different copies of the image in Cloudinary at least. We just have like we just basically create the URL, the transformation full URL, and then we actually upload that image to Sanity just so we have all the information in one place. But then we don't
Yeah.
save that image directly in Cloudinary. So all you see if you go into my Cloudinary thing, you'll see a base picture and then a bunch of headshots,
Yeah.
and that's kind of it.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason you couldn't just store the transformed image URL if you prefer.
Hmm.
I mean,
Okay.
I can't think of like a bad reason. I just always thought of it as
A
potentially
separate
more
asset.
fragile,
Yeah.
or yeah, either or.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, oh, here, access camera, sure. So with that,
That's
we've got a
very.
couple more minutes. Did this turn
Oh,
on the
well,
camera?
I don't know. So if you at the very top of the page, if you scroll
Oh,
up to
this is for this thing. Oh, that's
yeah,
good.
there you go. Mic
This
view.
is all right. I'll grab the link for this and then I'll close it out. um, oh, so if I were to save the URL directly into AppWrite, is there a good way to get the URL like from this actual component? I would probably need to use like another library to just generate this URL for me.
So you won't need to use a different library, but that's a really good question. So this everything on there, except for some of the basic Next.js props, is abstracted. I think even including that into a function called construct cloudinary URL. So you should be able to just technically pass all those props as is to that function. I'd probably need to test that out and make sure I can confirm that that's the case for you, rather
Okay.
than. But you should be able to do that as is. So for instance, like creating a constant object that says, here's all your props, and then you spread them out onto that. Um, and then you can also use those props inside the construct cloudinary URL function.
So
Does that make sense?
where is that function exposed to me?
It's not exposed in Next Cloudinary, but it's exposed in a package that Next Cloudinary uses. So you would just need to technically it's already installed, but you would need to probably add it to your package.json just to make sure that the dependencies are
Hmm, okay.
doing the right stuff. But then you import it from there. But I can send that to you
Yeah.
later so that you have that as an example. But it brings up a better question about how I should be exposing that, because that is something that is handy for people.
Hmm. Yeah, because it's kind of interesting to basically have all that information here. Like the component knows that I just don't have access to it, and
Yeah.
maybe you could also. I mean, I feel like this is maybe too specific of a use case to be adding this sort of functionality, but maybe you could add a callback handler for like you to call back to me and pass the generated URL. I don't know. That seems like maybe a little specific, but also not too much work. So maybe
Right. I
that's
mean,
useful for other
that's
people.
certainly interesting. I mean, if it is,
Yeah.
even if there is a certain, I kind of like to believe that if one person has a use case, somebody else is going to have that use case
Yeah.
at some point. No matter how like niche it is, somebody else is going to run into that
Somebody.
issue.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So that's an interesting point. Would you mind creating an issue on the GitHub repository for that?
Yeah. Um,
Awesome.
let's see. I still want to figure out an Arc browser why I'm only able to cycle through
Mm.
this many things. Um, right. Like that's yeah. Anyway. So inside of here, GitHub, create an issue. I'll just leave this up and do this in a minute. But
That sounds good.
yeah, that'd be super useful.
Yeah.
So yeah, my plan is to do a little bit more on this and create a video to highlight that after the fact. So if people on YouTube or Twitch, or later on, if you have questions or suggestions for this and want to share in Discord or something like that, please feel free, because I think it's a really cool like concept, and it's so easy to do something like the meme generator with Cloudinary because it'll just throw
Mhm.
that stuff on top of there. Um, did you one quick last question? Did you do any protection around like text that is too big to fit on the image?
No, but we do have options for that. I don't know if you ever played around with it when building your social cards. So, like, I believe what it is if you set the width to a fixed amount, and then I think you set a crop of fit on the overlay layer, I think that will
Mm.
collapse it.
Oh, right. Yeah. I've
Yeah,
done
something
that
along those
before.
lines. Yeah.
Overlays. Oh, this is a crop of fit.
Oh, so it should already the width. Maybe make that width the same size as the image. So what is it,
Oh, yeah.
600? Or I don't remember what it was.
What did I do? 960?
960.
I bet you're right.
There we go. Perfect.
And more text on top of here.
And I know there's also an option that if you don't set the crop of fit, I think it'll shrink it if I'm not mistaken, which probably isn't as good of an experience as collapsing the lines, but
Okay. So if
it's
I
still an option, right?
yeah, so this should be it should get bigger and bigger like this.
Yeah. It's interesting. I wonder if there's a way to I've never looked into it, but I wonder if there's a way to combine the 2 so that, like, depending on how big or how shrunken it gets,
Yeah.
maybe that's a matter of, like, detecting the line length. So it's like if characters exceed this amount, then you
Mhm.
change how it collapses or something.
So I wrote a bunch of custom code for that,
Oh, did you?
and I mean, it wasn't like useful, like it was just hacky. Like it was
Yeah?
just me just gauging and I was manually changing the font size based
Huh.
on how many characters. So I would split the sentence into like basically how many lines I thought it should be based on characters per line, and then I would
Yeah.
set the font size accordingly. I've got some hacky stuff and the
Interesting.
compressed FM stuff to try to handle that. So
Dude, you gotta expose some of these nuggets and see if there's anything I can, abstract away for people, 'cause that'd be cool.
maybe it is. It feels like I was just hacking stuff together and it was like super specific to what I was doing, but maybe not. I don't
Yeah,
know.
dude.
Um, Davis Townsend asking, "We'll let you know when your spot is ready and awaiting. Does it require an invite?" I think so, Davis. If you will send me a message, I think I have an invite that I can send you. And someone else, maybe Toxic, asked me that as well. So if you remember, send me a message. I'll try to get you an invite, and you can come and check it out with me. But we need to go.
Yeah.
Colby, thanks for joining me. I'm excited to kind of
Yeah.
play with this some more and
I'm
see
I'm
where I
looking
get
forward to
to.
seeing the final product
Yeah,
with this.
I think it'll be fun.
You're a week late for the hackathon.
I know. Yeah, if only. Um, I'll submit in spirit.
That sounds great, sounds great. But
Cool.
yeah, man, it's always a
Thanks.
pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. Thanks everyone for watching and hanging out with us. Really appreciate it. If you have ideas, suggestions, questions, comments, let me know anywhere on social or specifically in Learn Build Teach Discord. Love to interact with people there. Thanks,
See you,
everybody.
everybody.
Catch you later.